Hey everybody, this is Perch, and I want to apologize if I've been a douche this year in various ways. That's probably a funny way to start out the video, but I realize I slip into this somewhat by accident at times, and it's not intentional, but I don't know. The more you get scattered, and certainly the last half of this year has been very scattered with a number of different things going in every direction. And sometimes you got to just step back, enjoy life, and also just give yourself some perspective. But I know I was an absolute prick almost an absolute prick a second ago. And it does kind of lead into the topic that I thought I'd talk about, but it's on my mind. So just minutes ago. So I'm on the phone. Guy calls me up, writer, and they're like, "Oh man, I've got a problem. I'm hoping you can help me out with." And I said, "Yeah." I go, "Yeah, I'm happy to help you." I go, "I'm having a terrible day." Um, and they go, "Oh, what's going on?" I'm like, "No, it's just a day of frustration, not any one thing. It's just frustrating. I've had a lot of little frustrations. The most recent of which, now I want to preface this by saying this is the most first world of problems, douchiest of problems. Okay, I said I've been driving around. I had to get to a place, and I'm like super. I was on a conference call, so I was dealing with other things, but I feel like I'm like burning out of my skin, like it's hot, and I can't, like, it's super uncomfortable. And I realized when I got in the car, I bumped the seat heater button for my seat. And so you've been going that entire time, and then even when you unclick the seat heater button and I click the seat cooling button, it still takes like 2 minutes to cool off, and so I was just very uncomfortable. And then I kind of laughed because it is a ridiculous problem to have, and it was ridiculous. But I go, what's going on in your life? Like, and I was like, well, I borrowed against a comic that I was supposed to be paid for, and now it looks like the company that I did the book for is not going to pay me, and I'm not sure what to do. I'm at about $4,000, and I'm trying to figure out where to find the money. And in that moment, I felt like the world's biggest asshole. Just let's put it that way. Um, I mean, what do you do with that one? Uh, so all kind of arrogance and ego aside, and just general me accidentally being a douche, and I apologize for anyone who I've been douchey to this year. There's a couple basic things that I think, I'll give the advice out this way. The comic industry is, it's not this extreme all going to die tomorrow problem, but it isn't healthy. I think even the world's biggest cheerleader, if you get them on their own, you get, like the frequent, people like, but I thought comics are dying with every other word, upper, lowercase, capitalized. Even if that's your move, and I get that you're trolling on the internet, you're just one, but in your heart of hearts, deep down that there are problems. There are real problems in this business right now. You know that because the situation of, hey, I thought I was going to get paid for something, and now I'm not getting paid. That's not entirely uncommon. That's the sad part about that story is that you know you shouldn't be borrowing against money you don't have, particularly in a business that is often feels pretty unstable. And that's kind of that's the challenge we've got in comics right now, is that a lot of these businesses, a lot of these pieces are not in the best shape. And because they're not in the best shape, it means that erratic decisions get made, and it's just not good for you. So, without wanting to rub salt into that wound, I think the kind of thing I've said, Sean and I touched on that in the video about how to make money in comics and everything else. But part of the thing that we have to recognize is that there's just a couple things. There's just a couple things you can't do in comics in its current state, and it's hard if you have a love for comics and you've always wanted to do this. Hopefully you heard the interview with Philip Kennedy Johnson. Here's a guy who clearly loves what he's doing, and comics is better because of it. The comics industry is in a better state when you have people like that who are, wear their heart on their sleeve and are trying to make the best books they can. That's a good thing for comics. It's good. It's good to have passion. It's good to get involved in those things. It's healthy. Granted, corporations certainly take advantage of that passion they have, and they will, and they they do all the time. But still, you do want people in this business, whether you're running it or you're a consumer of it, whether you're a customer of it, you want people who love comics to be in it. But, and here's the not tough love part, but here's the truth of the matter is comic books are a very tough bet right now to make a living in. It's not it's not easy. And in a lot of cases, the deck is stacked against you. It is not. It has a lot of elements to it that are not healthy. The ability to contract somebody for work, get that work done, and then not pay them on time is something that if you have a healthy, growing, busy industry, that doesn't happen. Or if it does happen, it's so infrequent that it torches the business. Nobody ever work for that again. But in comics, I mean, Marvel was late on some payments. Marvel's a big corporation now. In their case, they had some people in accounts receivable who were laid off, or something happened there, and the people were late. But it's way too common. This is when we see these Twitter threads on "Be careful, companies aren't paying you." You're almost tired to see that because we've seen it so many times. So just first, as a kind of a matter of course, don't borrow against money you don't have in a business where people are extremely flaky. And that situation is not getting better. If anything, getting worse. You gotta, you do have to hedge your bets. The advice that was in, there may be a little bit too grandiose advice for sure of like, well, just go buy houses and then live off property. Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of money to buy a house. It's not just a trivial thing. I get that. But you do need to think about where's the course of income that you can have outside of comics, because comics, as much as I love it, as much as I want it to succeed, as much as I think it's great and we need comics and we will continue to have comics. But if you were an investor and you were judging, the markets, you would call this a nascent or immature market. You would call this you wouldn't call it a growth market because it's not that, but you would call it an emerging market and an unstable market. Because comics have been around for a while, you couldn't really use the words emerging or growing or beginning. You'd have to use the words unstable. And with the words unstable comes, risk. People don't put their money into comics. They don't put their money into comics because there is a greater than average chance that they will not get a return on their investment, that the money will go away. There's a lot of angel investors and people who have gone out there and funded a lot of these small companies. IDW is a classic case of it. And, they're in the hole. That money has not, that return on investment has not happened yet. The clearest course of where that investment could be returned came in the form of the idea that, hey, some of these comics could potentially be made into movies, and so you could get the quick buck that way. That possibility is still out there, but it's not. It's Vegas odds at this point. You're probably not going to pay off that bet. It's probably not going to work out. Even if you're lucky enough to get a studio to pay you to write a pilot, there's no guarantee that pilot gets made. In fact, again, the odds are it won't. Even if the pilot gets made, there's even smaller odds it gets picked up. You're running in a very young market. And that's the problem. It's not young. Comics has been around for a while. We've seen the big budget Hollywood movies come out. That's the crux of the problem with comics, is that it has been around for a while. The business is stable. Again, if you're an investor and you're looking at markets where you're going to put your money, and comics, quite frankly, needs investment. It needs people to come in and want to put $20 million into a company to get started as a publisher and hope to pay it out. That's what comics needs. It's definitely in that stage, but investors will not put their money there. Not necessarily because it's they're guaranteed to lose it, although it's a very real possibility. But even the return on that investment, the ability for you to make money, it's lower. You are better off putting your money into property or putting your money into various bonds or hell, there's a lot of things that have a far greater chance of paying off faster and bigger than comics. So I think the advice I would give you if you're a writer, artist, or somebody in comics is, be stable, be reliable. All the advice you've heard over the years, and it's sown through various videos. Be humble. Don't be a prick. Everything you do to make life harder for yourself is a problem you don't need to have. That is my biggest, by the way, complaint with the social media comments. I mean, we're still very obsessed as a fan culture around what people are saying on Twitter and what creators insult us, creators attack us, creators think little of us, all the rest. The thing I believe is all of that frustration of what creators are saying on social media is short lived. The next stage in this game is entire apathy. We're not at apathy yet. A lot of people say that, like, I'm apathetic at this point. No, you're not, because you wouldn't be commenting on a video 5 times a day if you were. But we're getting there. You will be there soon. I do believe you will be. Right now, there's still a lot of people who are angry. But that anger is going to transform into pure rage. Or sorry, not pure rage. Pure apathy. We're in pure rage now. What am I saying? You just stop caring. The big reason why I want creators to stop with some of this stuff is because it's taking hours out of their day. The part I would point you to in the video I did with Sean was, your time is valuable. Spend an hour farting around on Twitter, or spend an hour figuring out ways to make some investments that allow you to get some income outside of comics that makes your whole time in comics more peaceful. Some of the happiest people in comics, by the way, have other jobs. They're doing stuff with Dungeons and Dragons. They're doing stuff with property. There's a artist I know who's bought a large number of houses and rents them out, and it's a steady source of income that is greater than comics at this point. And all of those things help you feel confident, feel secure, ultimately, as a creative person, do better work. But we have to make, there has to be a recognition that comics it is not a stable career option that you can live in. For a very small handful, they've managed to make it through where they can get steady work and they can live off that work. But it takes a lot of effort and a lot of luck and a lot of factors outside of your control to be there. And as we've seen, a lot of creators that are on top of the world, go back down. Suddenly the business just stops working with them. Suddenly the phone doesn't ring. So you've got to have a plan. You've got to have a play outside of comics. And the more you have a play outside of comics, the happier you will be in comics. Because you're not going to be worried about, if you had to take a loan out against an advance payment that now isn't going to come. None of that is healthy for you. Certainly financially, for your personal life and everything else, but creatively, you will do worse work. You gotta think about this as an opportunity market. You want to do your best work. You want to put yourself in the best position where hopefully you can grow it, where comics can be a reliable place people can go that they can make steady money. But today, wherever you are, whether it's the big two, whether it's a small indie publisher, whether it's crowdfunding, crowdfunding as well. You are reliant on being able to market, promote your book, do live streams, whatever it happens to be, and that people will fund it. They may not come by for your next book, particularly if why they funded your first book is because they were more interested in financially supporting the culture war as opposed to your creative work. That again, that's not a stable business. You hope it will keep going, but who knows? You got to have another gig. And if you do, if you have a gig, you're comfortable, you're secure, you're able to put in your best work, with any luck, comics grows, and then one day you transition into it. But that, I don't think this is insulting comics to say that is not where we are now. Still a lot of work to be done. Anyway, takeaway, I'm a douche. Thanks for listening.